A knife in the back is always wielded by the one you never suspect. Abeni trusted Aduni with her secrets, her dreams, her life. But in one fateful moment, the friend she cherished became her worst enemy. How does a heart recover when shattered by the very hands meant to hold it? If you are new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories like this. And if you've already subscribed, thank you for coming back. We appreciate your support. Now keep calm and listen to the story till the end. You won't want to miss what happens next. Abeni had always believed that friendship was the strongest bond a person could have, stronger than blood even. Growing up in the heart of Ijuba, a small but vibrant village nestled between rolling green hills and the mighty Ogun River, she and Aduni were inseparable. From the moment they could walk, they had been together, their laughter echoing through the dusty footpaths as they chased each other beneath the towering baobab trees. Abeni was the quiet and thoughtful one, always seeking meaning in the stars above and the wisdom of the elders. Aduni, on the other hand, was bold and adventurous, always the first to dive into the river or climb the tallest tree. Despite their differences, they balanced each other perfectly, complementing strengths and weaknesses like two halves of the same calabash. Everyone in the village admired their bond. These two, the elders would say with knowing smiles, are like the sun and the moon, different, yet destined to shine together. They shared everything, dreams of the future, whispered secrets in the dark, and even pieces of roasted maize stolen from the village market when they were younger. To Abeni, Aduni was more than just a friend. She was family. She trusted her with everything. When her father fell ill and the village healers could do little, it was Aduni who held her as she cried. When Abeni began to dream of leaving the village to seek knowledge in the great city of Ibadan, Aduni was the first to encourage her, saying, "You are meant for great things, Abeni, and when you go, I will be right by your side." Their friendship was sacred, or so Abeni thought. As they grew older, their paths remained intertwined. They fetched water from the river together, prepared meals side by side, and even shared a woven mat under the stars on warm nights, dreaming of the lives they would build. They promised each other that no matter what happened, they would never be apart. But fate is a trickster, and trust is a fragile thing. There were whispers, small, barely noticeable at first, about Aduni's growing closeness to some of the village's wealthier families. She was often seen speaking in hushed tones with those who once ignored them. Abeni brushed off any concerns. Aduni would never betray her. They had sworn loyalty to each other under the sacred silk cotton tree after all. Yet a seed of doubt had been planted. One evening, as the sun painted the sky in hues of orange and gold, Abeni noticed something strange. Aduni avoided her gaze, her usual laughter subdued. When Abeni reached for her hand, as she had done countless times before, Aduni pulled away. Something had changed. Abeni did not know it yet, but her life was about to unravel in the most painful way possible. The friend she trusted more than anything was about to shatter everything she held dear. And when betrayal comes from the one you love most, it cuts deeper than the sharpest blade. Abeni noticed the changes, but she chose to ignore them. How could she suspect Aduni, the sister of her heart? When Aduni began spending more time with the daughters of Chief Ogunlade, Abeni dismissed it as mere curiosity. After all, who wouldn't want to be close to the wealthiest family in Ijuba? Still, things were different. Aduni spoke less to her, and when she did, her words felt distant, rehearsed. The small gestures of affection they once shared, linking fingers as they walked, whispering secrets late into the night, became rare. One day, as Abeni prepared her mother's herbal remedies for the market, Aduni arrived with a broad smile, though her eyes held something Abeni could not name. "Abeni," she said, settling beside her, "Chief Ogunlade's eldest son, Adekunle, is seeking a wife." Abeni's heart skipped. She had heard the rumors, but she had paid them no mind. "I know," she said, forcing a laugh. "Every girl in the village dreams of becoming his wife." Aduni's smile deepened. "And why shouldn't they? He is rich, handsome, and powerful. His father's wealth stretches beyond our village." Abeni shrugged. "Marriage is not on my mind, Aduni. You know this. I want to go to Ibadan, to study, to learn." Aduni cut her off with a dismissive wave. Yes, yes, your dreams of leaving. But Abeni, what if there is something better for you here? The conversation unsettled her, but she pushed the feeling aside. Perhaps Aduni was only looking out for her. Days passed, and the tension grew. Aduni continued to spend more time with the chief's family, speaking to them in hushed voices. Whenever Abeni approached, they would fall silent, exchanging knowing glances. Then came the invitation. One afternoon, Aduni rushed to Abeni's hut, excitement glowing in her eyes. The chief's family has invited you to dinner. They want to speak with you about something important. Abeni hesitated. Why would they invite me? Aduni took her hands, squeezing them tightly. Does it matter? This is a great honor. You must go. Abeni felt a flicker of suspicion, but she ignored it. Aduni was her best friend. She would never lead her astray. That evening, she dressed in her finest wrapper and followed Aduni to the chief's grand compound, where laughter and the scent of rich stews filled the air. She was led to a seat beside Adekunle, the chief's son, and as the meal progressed, the chief himself spoke. Abeni, we have heard of your virtues, your kindness, your intelligence, your beauty. Our son has taken a liking to you. Abeni's breath hitched. The room suddenly felt too small. She glanced at Aduni, but her friend only smiled. The chief continued, his voice firm. We have spoken to your mother. She has agreed to the union. Abeni's stomach churned. What? Aduni reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. Is this not wonderful news? But Abeni knew in that moment that something was terribly, terribly wrong. Abeni's mind reeled. Her mother had agreed? Without speaking to her? How could that be? She turned to Aduni, searching for an answer in the face she had trusted all her life. But Aduni only smiled, a practiced, unreadable expression, one that suddenly felt unfamiliar. This must be a mistake, Abeni stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. I never agreed to marry Adekunle. Chief Ogunlade's expression darkened. Abeni, this is an honor. Your mother has given her blessing. Aduni assured us that you were ready. Abeni's blood ran cold. Aduni assured them? She looked at her friend, eyes wide with disbelief. Aduni? Aduni reached for her hand, but Abeni pulled away as if burned. I did this for you, Abeni, Aduni said, her voice smooth, coaxing. You dream of Ibadan, but what future is there in a city that does not know your name? Here, you will be the wife of a powerful man. You will never know hunger, never struggle. Abeni's breath came in shallow gasps. You decided this for me? Without telling me? Aduni's expression tightened. I helped you, Abeni. I spoke to your mother. She was worried about your future, about what would happen if you left. I convinced her that this was the best choice. Rage flared in Abeni's chest. You convinced her? You betrayed me, Aduni. Her voice cracked, raw with pain. You knew I never wanted this. You knew. A hush fell over the room. The chief's family exchanged glances. Adekunle's brows furrowed in displeasure. Abeni felt her world cracking apart, the walls closing in around her. Aduni's eyes darkened. You are being ungrateful. Abeni let out a bitter laugh. Ungrateful? You sold my future like a piece of cloth in the market. Aduni's gaze flickered with something unreadable. Was it guilt? Frustration? It no longer mattered. Abeni stood abruptly, her heart pounding in her chest. I will not marry Adekunle, she declared, her voice firm despite the tremor in her hands. Chief Ogunlade's jaw tightened. Your mother has already accepted. Do you mean to bring shame upon her? Tears welled in Abeni's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She turned to Aduni one last time, desperate for an explanation, for some flicker of the friend she had loved. But Aduni only lifted her chin. This is for the best, she said. Abeni felt something inside her shatter. The girl who had once shared her dreams, who had sworn loyalty beneath the silk cotton tree, had chosen ambition over friendship. With one final, shaking breath, Abeni turned and ran. Away from the feast, away from the people who had stolen her voice, away from the one person she had trusted most. And as the night swallowed her whole, she realized, some wounds do not bleed, but they cut just the same. Abeni ran until her legs could carry her no further. Her lungs burned, her heart pounded, but nothing compared to the ache inside her chest. Betrayal was a wound that did not show on the skin, yet she felt as though she had been stabbed 100 times over. When she finally stopped, she found herself by the Ogun River, the very place where she and Aduni had spent countless days laughing, dreaming, and planning their futures. Now, those memories felt like a cruel joke. She sank to her knees, staring at her reflection in the water. Who was she now? Back in the village, whispers spread like wildfire. Some pitied her, shaking their heads at the girl who had dared to defy Chief Ogunlade's family. Others mocked her, calling her foolish for rejecting such an offer. But the worst part was the silence from her own mother. When Abeni returned home, her mother sat by the fire, staring at the flames. "You shamed me, Abeni," she said without turning. "Aduni was right. You have let foolish dreams cloud your sense." Tears burned Abeni's eyes. "Mama, I was never given a choice." Her mother's sigh was heavy. "A girl's future is never truly her own, Abeni. I only wanted you to be safe." Safe. The word felt bitter on her tongue. If safety meant being trapped in a life she did not choose, then she wanted none of it. But the greatest pain of all was Aduni's absence. Days passed, and not once did Aduni come to her. No apologies, no explanations. Abeni saw her laughing with the chief's daughters, walking through the market as though nothing had happened. Had their friendship meant so little? Had Aduni ever truly cared? The betrayal clung to her, weighing her down like a stone tied to her soul. She no longer spoke much, no longer smiled as she once did. She avoided the river, the market, anywhere she might see Aduni's face. The village that had once felt like home now suffocated her. One evening, as she sat outside her hut, a familiar voice broke the silence. "You have been avoiding me." Abeni turned slowly. Aduni stood before her, arms crossed, eyes unreadable. Abeni let out a hollow laugh. "And what reason would I have to seek you out?" Aduni sighed. "I only did what I thought was right. You will see one day." Abeni met her gaze, and for the first time, she saw Aduni for who she truly was. Not the sister of her heart, but a stranger who had made choices for her without a second thought. "No," Abeni said, her voice steady. "One day you will see what you have done." Aduni's lips pressed into a thin line, but she said nothing more. She turned and walked away, leaving Abeni in the quiet of the night. And for the first time, Abeni did not feel the urge to chase after her. In the days that followed, Abeni felt as if she were standing at a crossroads. The life she had once known, the one filled with trust, friendship, and dreams whispered beneath the moon, was gone. She could not change what had happened, but she could decide what came next. The pain of Aduni's betrayal lingered, but something inside Abeni had shifted. She no longer wished to drown in sorrow. She refused to let the choices of others dictate her future. She had spent too much time grieving over what had been stolen from her. Now it was time to take back control. Determined, Abeni visited Elder Ifaka, the village's oldest and wisest woman. Elder Ifaka had always seen more than what lay before her eyes. When Abeni arrived at her hut, the old woman peered at her through wrinkled lids and smiled knowingly. "You have walked through fire, child," she said, "but do not let the flames consume you. Let them forge you." Abeni knelt before her. "Elder, I still want to go to Ibadan, but I do not know how." The old woman chuckled. "Then go, Abeni. Do not wait for permission from the world. The river does not ask before it carves its own path." That night, Abeni made her decision. If her mother would not support her, if Aduni had abandoned her, then she would stand on her own. She gathered what little she had, a small bag of provisions, a few coins she had saved from selling herbs at the market, and most importantly, her unwavering resolve. Before the first light of dawn, she left the village behind. The journey to Ibadan was long and uncertain. There were moments of doubt, times when fear threatened to consume her. But with each step, Abeni grew stronger. She met travelers who shared their wisdom, elders who encouraged her, and strangers who saw in her something she had almost forgotten: potential. When she finally arrived in the great city, she was overwhelmed by its size, its noise, and its endless opportunities. She found work at a herbalist shop using the skills she had learned from her mother. She listened, learned, and grew. In time, she earned a place in a school where she could study the knowledge she had once only dreamed of. One evening, as she sat beneath a different sky, far from the village of her birth, she thought of Aduni. There was no more anger, only understanding. Aduni had made her choice, and Abeni had made hers. They were no longer the same girls who had once promised to stay together forever. Abeni had found something far more precious than the friendship she had lost. She had found herself, and in that she had won. Betrayal cuts deep, especially when it comes from the person we trust the most. Abeni's journey is one that many of us can relate to, trusting someone wholeheartedly, only to realize they were never truly on our side. But what matters most is how we rise from the pain, reclaim our strength, and move forward. What did you think about Abeni's story? Have you ever experienced betrayal from someone close to you? How did you overcome it? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might help someone else going through a similar situation. Betrayal can feel like the end of the world, but as Abeni showed us, it can also be the beginning of something greater. She lost a friend, but she found herself. What lessons did you take away from this story? Let's discuss. If you enjoyed this fable and want more powerful stories filled with African culture, deep lessons, and real emotions, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. And if you want to hear another gripping tale about trust, choices, and redemption, check out our next video. Click the link and continue this journey with us. Remember, sometimes betrayal is a blessing in disguise. It forces us to become the strongest version of ourselves. Keep growing, keep learning, and never let someone else define your future.